Good morning, children. Today I am going to discuss with you about agents of pollination. Okay, already I have discussed with you about what is pollination, what are the types of pollination, all. Now I am going to discuss with you agents of pollination. Pollination is affected by many agents like wind, water, insects, etc. On the basis of the agents that bring about pollination, the mode of pollination is divided into abiotic and biotic. The latter type is used by majority of plants. Okay, so that is biotic factors are used by the majority of plants. Okay, so the pollination is affected by many agents that you know very well. In the 10th standard itself we have discussed about it. So what are the agents which are functioning for pollination? Wind, water, insects, etc. So on the basis of the agents that bring about pollination, the mode of pollination also divided into abiotic and biotic factors. Then among this abiotic and biotic is used by the majority of plants. Let's see about abiotic agents. Anemophily, that is pollination by wind, and another one is hydrophily, that is pollination by water, and biotic agent zoophily. Zoophily refers to pollination through animals, and pollination through insect is called entomophily. So, anemophily, pollination by wind. The wind pollinated flowers are called anemophilous flower. The wind pollinated plants are generally situated in wind exposed regions only. Anemophily is a chance event. Therefore, the pollen may not reach the target flower effectively and are wasted during the transit from one flower to another. The common examples of wind pollinated flowers are grasses, sugarcane, bamboo, coconut, palm, maize, etc. Okay, actually anemophily is the type of pollination agents of pollination by wind. So actually, and the flowers pollinated by wind are called anemophilous flower. And sometimes you will get a question like write note on anemophily. Okay, so the wind pollinated plants, where the wind pollinated plants are located, that is situated in the wind exposed regions, and it's a chance of event. Why it is called a chance of event? You know very well. Wind are carrying the pollen grains. Winds are carrying pollen grains. While carrying, there are many wastage of pollen grains on the way, and also the chance of falling on a suitable stigma also very rare only, or by chance only. Hence it is called anemophily is a chance event, that is the pollen may not reach the target flower effectively and are wasted during the transit from one flower to another. So the common hence it is called chance event. The common example for anemophily are grasses, sugarcane, bamboo, coconut, palm, maize, etc. Anemophilous plants have the following characteristic features. The flowers are produced in pendulous, satin, catkin-like or spike inflorescence. About this we will discuss already in 11th standard. If you want about this inflorescence, please refer that book. And the axis of inflorescence elongates so that the flowers are brought well above the leaves. Okay, so the axis of the inflorescence are elongate, நீளமாக இருக்கும். அந்த நீளமாக இருக்கிறதுனால தான் லீவ்ஸ்க்கு மேலே நல்லா எக்ஸ்போசிவாக அது தெரியும். அண்ட் விண்ட் காற்றடிக்கும் போது இந்த பாலன்ஸ் எல்லாம் வந்துட்டு என்னாகும் அப்படின்னா அப்படியே இட் இஸ் கேரிடு பை த விண்ட் டு த அனதர் பிளான்ட் ஆஃப் ஃபீமேல் ஃப்ளவர். The perianth is absent or highly reduced. The perianth are absent or highly reduced. So there won't be any perianth, or a reduced perianth will be there in anemophilous plant. Flowers are small, inconspicuous, colorless, not scented, do not secrete nectar, because here the pollination is taken place by wind only, not by insect. For insect pollinated flowers only, it should be, the flower should be large and with bright colored and scented with nectars to attract the insect. But in wind pollinated plant, these characters are not necessary, and the flowers also very small, and the stamens are numerous, filaments are long, exerted and versatile. So how the stamens will be? Many stamens will be there. Filaments are long, excited and versatile. Anthers produce enormous quantities of pollen grains compared to numbers of ovules available for pollination. So about anthers, anthers produce enormous quantity of pollen grains. Large quantities of pollen grains are produced by the anthers compared to number of ovules available for pollination. They are minute, light, dry, so that they can be carried by long distance by the wind. What are the characters of pollen in wind pollinated plants? That also sometimes you will get as a question. Since the pollens are carried by the wind, it should be minute, light and dry, so that they can be carried to long distance by wind. In some plants, anthers burst violently and release the pollen into the air. Example, Artica. In some plants, anther burst violently, ரொம்ப violent burst ஆகும்போது it release pollen in the air. Example, Artica. And stigmas are comparatively large. So when compared to the stamen anther pollen grains, the stigmas are very large. Why it should be very large? Stigma large இருந்தாதான் அந்த சின்ன சின்ன காற்று மூலமாக வரக்கூடிய போலன் கிரெயின்ஸ்லாம் அந்த ஸ்டிக்மாவில் போய் அந்த பிளாட்ஃபார்மில் இறங்குறதுக்கு ஈஸியாக இருக்கும். தட்ஸ் வாட். ஸ்டிக்மாஸ் ஆர் கம்பேரிட்டிவ்லி லார்ஜ், ப்ரொட்ரூடிங், sometimes branched and feathery, adapted to catch the pollen grains. Generally single ovule is present, and plant produces flowers before the new leaves appear, so that pollen can be carried without hindrance of leaves. So these are the characters of anemophilous flower. This is a 3 mark or sometimes 5 mark question for you. Okay children, please bracket it, and also I think book back question it is. Next, pollination in maize. That is the maize. It is a wind pollinated plant only. The maize is monoecious and unisexual. That is, the male inflorescence is borne terminally, tassel, and female inflorescence laterally at lower leaves. So that is, both male and female sex organ born on same plant. That is called monoecious or unisexual. This male plant or male inflorescence in the terminal region of the plant, and the female inflorescence on the lateral side, lower side of the lateral side, female inflorescence is present. Maize pollens are large and heavy and cannot be carried by light breeze. Okay, maize pollens are large and heavy, so cannot be carried by light breeze. However, the mild wind shake the male inflorescence to release the pollen, which fall vertically below. So the female inflorescence has long stigma measuring up to 23 cm in length, which projects beyond the leaves. The pollens drop from the tassel is caught by the stigma. Okay, since the pollens are large and heavy, the pollens in maize plant, the pollens cannot be carried by light breeze. So what happened? So however, the mild wind shakes the male inflorescence. When the mild air will be there, it shakes the male inflorescence to release pollen grains. When the male inflorescence release the pollen grains fall vertically below. கீழே ஸ்ட்ரெயிட்டாக கீழே நோக்கி விழும். நம்ம ஏற்கனவே பார்த்துருக்கோம், இதனுடைய ஃபீமேல் ஃப்ளார் எங்கே இருக்கும்? கீழே லேட்ரலாக வெளியில் ப்ரொஜெக்ட் ஆகிட்டு இருக்கும். ஸோ அப்போ வந்துட்டு மேலே இருந்து அந்த போலன் கிரெயின்ஸ் கீழே விழும்போது அந்த வெர்டிக்கலாக இருக்கக்கூடிய அந்த ஸ்டிக்மா வந்துட்டு அதை வாங்கிக்கும். அவ்வளோதான். த ஃபீமேல் இன்ஃப்ளாரசன்ஸ் ஹாவ் லாங் ஸ்டிக்மா measuring up to 23 cm in length, which projects beyond leaves. So the pollen drop from the tassel is caught by the stigma. Okay, this what happened in the maize plant. Okay, Next one, hydrophily. So far we have discussed about anemophily. Now we are going to discuss about hydrophily. Hydrophily, it is pollination by water. Hydro means what? Water. So hydrophily means what? Pollination takes place by water is called hydrophily, and the flowers pollinated by water are said to be hydrophilous flower. Example, Vallisneria and Hydrilla. Though there are a number of aquatic plants, only in few plants pollination takes place by water. The floral envelope of hydrophilous plants are reduced or absent. So that is in floral envelope of hydrophilous plants are reduced or absent. That means there is no floral envelope we can see in the hydrophilous flower. In water plants like Eichhornia and water lily, pollination takes place through wind or by insects. There are two types of hydrophily, epihydrophily and hypohydrophily. In most of the hydrophilous flowers, the pollen grains possesses mucilage covering which protects them from wetting. And epihydrophily, pollination occurs at the water level. Example, Vallisneria, spiralis, Elodia. So this is called what? Epihydrophily. Pollination occur at the water level. Example, Vallisneria and spiralis. It is a type of hydrophily. And pollination in Vallisneria we will see as an example. It is a dioecious, submerged and rooted hydrophyte. The submerged means what? The plant is completely present inside the water and roots are fixed at the bottom of the water bodies. The female plant bears solitary flowers, solitary in a single flowers, which rise to the surface of the water level using a long coiled stalk at the time of pollination. So at the time of pollination what happened? Female Vallisneria plant வந்துட்டு கீழே உள்ளே இருந்து தண்ணிக்குள்ளே இருந்து அப்படியே காயில்டு ஸ்டாக்காக அப்படியே மேலே வந்து மேலே வாட்டர் பாடிக்கு மேலே ஒரு ஃப்ளாராக, ஒரு பெரிய ஃப்ளாராக பூ பூத்து நிற்கும். தட் மீன்ஸ் பூ மட்டும், ஃபீமேல் ஃப்ளார் மட்டும் வாட்டர் பாடிஸ் மேலே இருக்கும். A small cup-shaped depression is formed around the female flower on the surface of the water. The male plant produces male flowers which gets detached and float on the surface of the water. Okay, female flower, it's a flower alone coming on the surface of the water. What about male plant? Male plant produces male flowers which get detached and float on the surface of the water. Okay, here what happened? The female flower is attached with the plant with a long coiled stalk and flowers alone float on the surface of the water. That we know very well clearly. But what about male? Male flower அப்படி இருக்காது. It detached from the plant and the flowers alone float on the surface of the water. Male flower. The male plant produces male flowers which get detached and float on the surface of the water. As soon as a male flowers come in contact with the female flower and pollination takes place, stalk of the female flower coils and goes under water where fruits are formed. So as soon as male flower come in contact, okay, இப்படியே ஃபீமேல் ஃப்ளார்ஸ் மேலே வாட்டர் பாடிக்கு மேலே இருக்கும். மேல் ஃப்ளார்ஸ் பேரண்ட்டுக்கிட்ட இருந்து டிட்டாச் ஆகிட்டு அப்படியே மூவ் ஆகிட்டு வரும்போது when it meet this female flower, it fuse with the pollen grains or fused with the stigma of the female flower. Once the pollination has taken place, immediately the stalk of the female flower coils and goes under water where fruits are produced. So pollination takes place on the surface of the water. Once the pollination has taken place, immediately the female flower coiled the stalk and fruit development has taken place under the water, right? So this is called what? Epihydrophily. Epihydrophily means what? Pollination occur at the surface of the water bodies. Next, hypohydrophily. Pollination occurs inside the water. Example, Zoostera marina and Ceratophyllum. This is what occurs inside the water. மேலே சர்ஃபேஸில் நடந்தால் எபிஹைட்ரோஃபிலி, வாட்டருக்கு உள்ளே நடந்தால் ஹைப்போஹைட்ரோஃபிலி. எக்ஸாம்பிள், Zoostera marina and Ceratophyllum. And next one is third type, zoophily. So by the word itself you could understand that is pollination by the agency of animal is called zoophily, and flowers are said to be zoophilous flower. Animals that bring about pollination may be birds, bats, snails and insects. Of these, insects are well adapted to bring pollination. So large animals like primates, lemurs, arboreal rodents, reptiles, Checo lizard and garden lizard have also been reported as pollinators. Ornithophily. Ornitho, the word itself you could understand ornitho, that is study of bird is called ornithology. And ornithophily means what? Pollination by birds is called ornithophily. Some common plants that are pollinated by birds are Erythrina, Bombax, Syzygium, Bignonia, Sterlitzia, etc. Hummingbirds, sunbirds, and honey eaters are some of the birds which regularly visit flowers and bring about pollination. The ornithophilous flowers have the following characteristic features. Since 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points are there, you will get as a 5-mark question what are ornithophilous flower or mention its characteristic features. Okay, as 5-mark question. The flowers are usually large in size. Flowers are usually large in size. Flowers are tubular, cup shaped or on shaped structure. The flowers are brightly colored, red, scarlet, pink, orange, blue and yellow, which attracts the birds. So flowers are brightly colored one, maybe red color, scarlet, pink, orange, blue and yellow, which attracts the birds. The flowers are scentless and produce nectar in large quantities. But flowers are scentless, no smell is there. But it produces nectars in large quantities. Pollen and nectar form the floral rewards for the birds visiting the flowers. Then floral parts are tough and leathery to withstand the powerful impact of the visitors. Okay. Next one is Chiropterophyllae. Pollination carried out by bats are called Chiropterophyllae. Some of the common Chiropteroplus plants are Gigelia africana, Adansonia digitata. Next, Malacophily. Pollination by slugs and snail is called Malacophily. Some plants of Araceae are pollinated by snails. Water snails crawling among lemna pollinated them. So, what is mean by Malacophily? Pollination by slugs and snail are called Malacophily. Some plants of Araceae are pollinated by snails. Water snails crawling among lemna pollinate them. Okay. So pollination, two types. This flow chart please go through yourself children, and see children here you will get different types of biotic agent and its study. See Canthrophyllae, beetle, Palinophyllae, moths, Melitophily, bees, Psychophily, butterflies, Malacophily, snails, Ornithophily, birds, Chiropterophily, bats, Myrmecophily, ants. How we will get question from this? Define Canthrophyly and Palinophyly. அவ்வளோதான். How to write the answer? Pollination by beetle are called Canthrophyllae. Pollination by moths are called Palinophyllae. அவ்வளோதான் answer. 1 mark, 2 mark. So please be thorough with this branches. Okay. Next, Endomophily. Endomophily you know very well. Pollination by insects is called Endomophily. Pollination by ant is called Myrmecophily. Insects that are well adapted to bring pollination are bees, moths, butterflies, flies, wasps and beetles. Of the insects, bees are the main flower visitors and dominate pollinators. Insects are chief pollinating agents and majority of angiosperm are adapted for insect pollination. It is the most common type of pollination. Next, the characteristic features of anemophilous flowers are as follows. Flowers are generally large, or if small, they are aggregated in dense inflorescence, example Asteraceae flowers. So, actually the flowers are generally large, or if small, they are aggregated in dense flowers. Then flowers are brightly colored to attract the insect. Adjacent part of the flowers may also be brightly colored to attract the insect. For example, in poinsettia and bougainvillea, the bracts become colored. Flowers are scented and produce nectar. Then only insects can come and sit and suck nectars. Flowers in which there is no secretion of the nectar, the pollen is either consumed as food or used in building up of its hive by the honeybees. So, pollen and nectar are the floral rewards for the visitors. Flowers pollinated by flies and beetles produced a false odor to attract the pollinators. In some flowers, juicy cells are present which are pursed and content as sucked by the insect. Okay. So, pollination in salvia, it is an insect pollinated flower. Liver mechanism, this I will discuss with you in my next class, children. Okay. Bye.